This video is far from being perfect, and that was totally a point there. Some time ago I asked myself a question: why does everything feel like it has to be so flawless? You'll feel perfect everywhere. The perfect recipe, perfect outfit, perfect match. It's become a cultural mantra. But have you ever stopped to wonder, what does actually that constant push for perfection really do to us? And more importantly, does chasing that perfect ideal actually help us, or is it just another trap? We live in arguably the best era in human history. Longevity is up, wealth is higher, and the technology handles the chores that once ate up our days. Think about it. We have dishwashers, so no more scrubbing plates. We have robot vacuums and floor clean themselves. We can shop online and groceries are delivered to our doors. All that saved time sounds great, but where does it go to? Here's the catch. That reclaimed time often disappears into the black hole of our phones. Social media platforms like Facebook, TikTok, or even YouTube are built on a sophisticated recommendation engines that exploit primitive reward pathways in our brains. Even when we are fully aware of the algorithmic pull, the dopamine hit from the new video or a meme keeps us glued. This is a topic for another video, but more important here is the content itself. Some muscular people doing their gym sessions, or travelers in wonderful places on the earth, or some AI content where everything is polished. Our brains start automatically compare ourselves into these postures, and in majority of situations we are this worst part in this comparison. This has significant consequences. Have you ever wanted to start a new habit, like hit the gym, run, eat healthier, or just keep in a journal? How many times have you stalled because you were hunting for the perfect shoes, the perfect gym membership, or the perfect notebook? Here's the kicker. You don't need a pro-grade treadmill to jog around the block. You don't need a designer journal to start writing. Grab a regular tracksuit, a plain notebook, and just do it. The perfect conditions are a myth. The real magic is in starting. All these perfect-looking reels, which we are exposed to, effectively prevents us from doing so. But it is not the first time when the ideal conditions are a blocker. It was already researched in the 60s in a classic experiment, the Calhoun mouse utopia. Researchers gave a colony of mice everything they could possibly need: endless food, water, nesting materials, safety from predators, disease, weather. Space was the only limit. The population exploded, then plateaued, and then collapsed. Aggression rose, social structures fell apart, and eventually the whole group died out, even though material conditions stayed flawless. Calhoun warned that overcrowding and lack of escape routes could trigger similar breakdowns in human societies. Critics argued that the lab settings isn't comparable to the wild, but the story still sparks debate about whether two perfect environments can backfire. We cannot use this experiment directly in terms of our society, but surprisingly, we already have proofs that perfectionism is generally unproductive. You've probably heard about the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. Keeping it short, it states that roughly 20% of our effort yields around 80% of the results. In a corporate setting, think of the quarterly report. To do this, we have to gather the data, write some analysis, and later polish the presentation. It's that third step, tweaking fonts, aligning margins, moving a caption a millimeter, that eats up a massive chunk of time, yet contributes only a tiny slice of overall value. All of us heard that story. We spent weeks on redesigning a simple PowerPoint deck for a client. When we finally sent the report and the deadline had passed and the client had already moved on, what would you feel? Proud, or rather the exhaustion? That's where the law of diminishing return bites. A 2025 meta-analysis shows that perfectionism doesn't boost productivity, it just inflates the hours you spend. You end up with the same or similar output, but with more fatigue and the higher risk of burnout. So, what's the lesson from this? Perfection can actually become a productivity sinkhole. We can try to prevent it, and the footage you're watching is actually an example of this. This is the recording from my beta 1.7.3 Minecraft world I recently played. And this particular shot was recorded back in 2024. I've since upgraded graphic settings, software performance, and generally the quality of the recordings, but that raw, imperfected version gave me the baseline, the reference point from which I've started to look for some better options to actually record the screen. If I would never release that early version, I would have no clue how many things I can upgrade. In software development, we talk about minimum viable product. Release something functional, gather feedback, and iterate. The same principle applies to art, writing, and even personal habits. Progress thrives on iteration, not on waiting for the unattainable perfect version. But sometimes it's hard to draw the finish line. We all know the feeling. You've poured hours into a project, so you keep polishing it, hoping the extra effort will finally pay off. I am struggling to perfectionism myself, and I also spent hours on polishing this script by adding or removing some extra sentences. It's not always easy to define when the task ends. Then we have to define it on our own, and perfectionism can be a huge blocker in doing this. But letting go early frees you to start something new and more rewarding. It frees mental bandwidth for fresh ideas. I want to underline that I am not advocating mediocrity. I'm saying complete tasks with confidence, not endless doubt. Social media bombard us with idealized lives, nudging us toward perpetual tweaking. Recognize that pressure, set realistic standards, and just move forward. Life in generally is imperfect. So, what's the takeaway? Perfection is alluring, but chasing it can drain time, energy, and joy. It's better to focus on that 80% that truly matters, accept good enough, and give yourself permission to iterate. If you like this video, consider like and subscribe, and drop a comment below. How do you battle perfectionism in your daily life? I would love to hear your stories. You can also buy me a coffee using the link in the description. Until next time, stay curious, don't be afraid of imperfection, and keep creating.